Thank you for tuning in to Tamara for Georgia. I am Tamara Johnson Shealey, your candidate for the United States Senate. I'm an independent Democrat that believes that reparations will make America great. It is time that we unite our country once and for all. Please go to my website. It's tamaraforgeorgia.com. And please join me every Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here for Tamara for Georgia. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I am Tamara Johnson Shealey. Good morning. I missed y'all. I totally missed y'all on the broadcast. Y'all know where I've been. Everywhere. Making my rounds. So I am coming to give you a recap this morning. It is a gloomy Saturday morning here in Georgia. It is Saturday, May 7th. We are less than 3 weeks away from our race to the United States Senate, winning our race to the United States Senate. Good morning. Good morning. Share the broadcast. You hear I'm a little, I'm burning the candle at all ends. So y'all, I'm quite exhausted, but I am here and wanted to give you a recap this morning of my journey. I have been everywhere I've needed to be. I've been doing things and I'm not very vocal, if y'all are kind of noticing. I'm giving you the highlights, but we are running a full campaign here to the United States Senate. So I wanted to share some highlights from the campaign trail. We actually have some great candidates that wanted to share their platforms with us this morning. So I have some great audio from them. But let me start with sharing my screen. Let me share my screen. And I wanted to bring you some highlights this morning. Let me share my screen, share the audio, make sure you guys can hear. And I want to share this. I went over to Athens, y'all. And when I tell you that the pushback is real, it took everything in my spirit for me to get on that stage in Athens, Georgia. It took everything in my spirit to get on that stage. And I want to thank some of my fellow reparationists. There was a freedman there with me and encouraged me to take that stage and take that mic and deliver. And I believe I did. So for those of you who hadn't seen this clip, I wanted to share it with you this morning. Let me remove myself and make it
here with us. And as we make the transition, we are going to allow her 2 minutes. So please gather around and listen to our candidate who is here for Senate, Ms. Tamara Johnson Shealey. Tamara Johnson Shealey.
It is perfectly fine. I just want to say thank you. I just usually answer because they know who I am in the long run. So I want to say good afternoon, everybody. I am Tamara Johnson Shealey. I am a candidate to the United States Senate. Let me tell you something. I am a Democrat. Let me say that again. I am a Democrat. Let me say that one more time. I am a Democrat, okay? And let me just be honest. Let me hold your hand real quick. Let me just be honest. I almost didn't come to the stage. And let me tell you why. Because as a Democrat running in this race to the United States Senate, I am getting personally a lot of pushback because I am primarying the Reverend Senator Raphael Warnock. And that is undemocratic if we talk about it. And these are the things that we don't talk about that we need to talk about. Every candidate, anybody that puts their name on the ballot should have an opportunity to speak and share their platform. Again, I am a Democrat to the United States Senate right here in the great state of Georgia. I am a reparationist. I fight very boldly for the needs of the Black community. The Democrats, I love you, but the Black community undergirds this party. The Black community undergirds this party. And when I tell you that white America has 10 times the wealth, go look it up. The data is there. When I tell you by 2053, Black America will have zero net wealth, go look it up. The data is there. When I tell you we're about 13% of this population, but we only have about 2.6% of this nation's wealth, that data is there. And that stems from systematic generational issues here in this country that started with slavery, Jim Crow, black codes, convict leasing, no New Deal, no GI Bill, redlining, war on drugs, mass incarceration. We have to, Democrats, be very intentional about repairing Black America in this country. And again, I am Tamara Shealey, your candidate to the United States Senate. Thank you.
Here with us.
So when I tell you guys that the pushback is real, it's real, and it is quite this, it makes me mad, and when I get mad I just go harder. So the last thing they want to do is keep making me mad, because it don't do nothing but make it worse. So I am fighting even harder when that pushback is coming at me. But yeah, it took everything in me to get on that stage. Running this race to the United States Senate, the process just has not been fair. The Democratic Party, our own Democratic Party, a party that Black America has supported with all that we have. We again, like I said, we undergird this party. And for this party to disregard, our issues, for this party to literally, silence Black candidates, or silence candidates that they don't feel that they can control. They want candidates that they can raise money off of, and they can manipulate. And I am not that kind of candidate, and they know it. So the pushback is absolutely real. Have been visited some, some churches, and even parishioners. They are, just having a Black face in a high place with Warnock. It's sad. Because this man has been ineffective in Congress. His best legislation from March 25th of 2021 until February the 17th of 2022 was to put a statue of Shirley Chisholm in Congress. That was Warnock's best legislation for almost 11 months. Ineffective. And we want to send somebody who does not even support reparations back to Congress. He has yet to even sign on to the one bill that will fundamentally change the state and fate of Black America. S40, which is the mirror to HR 40, the reparations study, y'all. He won't even sign on to that. That says a lot about his candidacy. That says a lot about who he is as a legislator. That says a lot about how he feels about Black America. When you have homeless people sleeping on the outside of your church, you should have been the biggest champion for homelessness in this country, because we make up the large majority of the homeless, those of us who are Black, those of us who are descendants of chattel slavery. We cannot send him back to Washington. America has to reckon with what they've done to us. And now is our time. So I'm not going to get on my soapbox. Trust me, I'm on my soapbox every day out there in these political streets, is what I call them. So let me clear my screen over here, and let me stop sharing. Let me bring in some of the highlights from some more highlights. My computer does not want to cooperate, but it will. Give me just a second. Let me let's bring in some of the interviews that I've done. We have some great candidates that are around the state campaigning, running statewide alongside me and others that are running statewide. Let's bring in an interview from Ralph Baker. Ralph Baker is running for insurance commissioner here in Georgia. So let me share my screen and share his interview. Y'all, I'm running on steam, but I'm here. All right, let me share my screen, share the audio. Share. All right, right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I am Tamara Johnson Shealey, and I have a very special guest this morning, Mr. Raphael Baker. He is running for insurance commissioner here in the great state of Georgia. You know, I always like to give voice. I like to give a platform, lend my platform to, candidates that are running. This is a statewide race. And I wanted him to come on and share his campaign with you, give you a little bit about who he is, and y'all get a chance to meet him. Here you go, Mr. Raphael. The stage is all yours.
Hey, thank you so much. And thank you for using your platform to help educate voters. We really need that because educated voters make better decisions. So I really appreciate the opportunity. All right. So let's talk a little bit about me. I'm Raphael Baker, and I am running for insurance commissioner. I've been in the insurance industry for over 2 decades. I started my insurance career answering phones and taking payments at a small insurance agency. But, I'm ambitious. So eventually I got licensed, moved over into the sales side. I own my own agency for 6 years, and now I hold a corporate leadership position with a major carrier. And in this position, I am responsible for recruiting, hiring, mentoring, and developing budding insurance agents and insurance agency owners. So it's definitely a way to pay it forward. Back in 2018, I attended the Georgia Democratic Convention, and Representative John Lewis, God rest his soul, he was there and he was one of the speakers. And he spoke and said that it was time to infuse some fresh blood into the Democratic Party. He said it was time for the next generation of leaders to take the torch. And that hit me right in my soul. And so, something was sparked in me. And then in 2019, I lost my best friend to kidney failure. And in the 3 years preceding that, I spent much time in the hospital with him. I remember spending 2 weeks in the hospital because I really didn't trust the healthcare system in Georgia. The healthcare bills were astronomical. I mean, he would get bills for like 100 and something thousand for dialysis treatment, and this was per month. Fortunately, he had insurance, but there's so many people in Georgia that don't have insurance. So those few things, coupled with my 20 plus years of experience in the industry, prompted me to get in this race. I've seen what we've had. Our insurance commissioners in the past have pretty much been for self. The current candidates, most of them are seeking clout instead of change. And I'm not just seeking change, I am seeking reform. So, first of all, I am seeking equity in insurance rates. It is a fact that Black people pay more for insurance than non Black people. And this is due to socioeconomic factors that have nothing to do with your driving record, such as your credit score, such as whether or not you own a home, whether or not you're married. This is disproportionately impacting the Black community. Sometimes you're paying 3 and 4 times more than other people are. So definitely equity in rates. But then also, listen, car insurance rates are through the roof. Georgia ranks number 5 in the country for highest car insurance rates. And a lot of times you are paying more for your insurance than you're paying car payments. And so I am fighting to put a stop to that. One of the reasons this is happening is because some of the insurance companies are putting the bad drivers into the same risk pool as the good drivers. So I'm going to fight to ensure proper segmentation. Earlier, I talked about healthcare. I got to see how messed up healthcare is in the state of Georgia. So, first of all, I'm fighting for Medicaid expansion, full Medicaid expansion. The governor was going to go ahead and sign off on this not too long ago, but he wanted to put a work clause in that. And I oppose that work clause because if you are sick, how can you work? And we are still on the tail end of a pandemic. There are plenty of people suffering. So I am fighting to ensure that people have health care coverage. Another tenet of my platform is education. Education is critical. Most people, you don't know what's in your insurance policy. How many people know what the comprehensive coverage means, the collision coverage? I am going to help educate the public. I'm going to use my platform as insurance commissioner to ensure that we have educated consumers. Along with that comes the financial literacy portion. Last but not least, small businesses. Small businesses are the backbone, not just of Georgia, but of the United States. So I am going to create a fund that is going to help create agency owners, specifically in underserved, underrepresented communities, women, people of color, members of the LGBTQ plus community. Hey, our brothers and sisters that are in the rural parts of the state. You know, owning an insurance agency literally changed my life. And I'm the type of person, I'm going to pay it forward. We're going to do that for other people. And, we're going to stimulate this economy along the way. But yeah, that's what I have.
Well, I want to tell you, Mr. Baker, I just want to applaud you for putting your hat in the ring and running for insurance commissioner. I know it's a huge undertaking, and just to have good candidates out there, that's what this is all about, this Democratic primary. So I wish you the best of luck out there, because I know how mean these political streets can be. But you have the right attitude to get the job done.
These streets are mean, but guess what? I'm a fighter.
Yeah. Well, thank you so very much for the opportunity to be on this broadcast. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, that was the candidate for insurance commissioner, Mr. Raphael Baker. And I have another candidate. Let me pull this one up. These are candidates that don't get an opportunity, and that's the sad part. We're running these statewide races, and you would think the Democratic Party would add everybody to the website. You think they would promote the fact that we have a midterm election coming up. You would think that they would promote everybody's candidacy, but that does not happen. So these are candidates that would otherwise not have as much exposure if we didn't lend our platforms to each other to do it. It's the process, the politics here in Georgia is disturbing. And I pray that this is an election that we win, because I promise you that, I promise you that when we do win, trust me, things will never be the same in Georgia politics. Mark my words. So I'm going to share Mr. Cowen. Hold on for me 1 second. Mr. Cowen, he is running for Attorney General. Again, a lot of our candidates would not have voices if we didn't lend our platforms to each other. So let me add him to the screen. Share. Here we go. Cohen, who are you? Because here, one thing I find about politics here in Georgia, it's very relational. People like to feel like they know you.
Right.
So who are you, Mr. Martin Cohen?
All right. Well, as I said, I went to Athens High School. Most of my life has been spent in Georgia. I was actually born in Virginia, but my dad and my family moved here to Georgia in 1964. He was the dean of the law school at the University of Georgia. I have five siblings. I guess we are five siblings, and I'm one of five. And all of my siblings are alive and well. My two parents have passed away. I have a wife and two children. The two children are adults. One of the children is at the University of Georgia, and he's studying engineering. The other child is an adult, and he is autistic, and he's permanently disabled. And I'm the full-time stay-at-home care dad for him. And he's gone to various schools that help him out. Right now, we take him to a special program called Jeremy's Place in Union City, and we're so thankful that at least 2 days a week he can have some environment other than his relatively boring 70-year-old dad.
Mhm.
But my criminal practice, my law practice was largely in the criminal defense area. Um, Toward the latter part of my career, I litigated in the federal court, defending people charged with federal crimes. As I mentioned, I was a probate judge for a period of time, and so I did a lot of probate work, and that was very interesting. I love being a judge. That was a great role. Um, and so, I've been practicing law forever, 47 years, and I'm still a lawyer, still chugging along in that field.
So tell us why you run. What was it that, or that said to you, okay, I'm gonna get out here and run for office, public office. Why,
Right.
why the run?
Well, I told you about being interested in the congressional race. So I ran in 2018 and 2020 for Georgia 13, which is basically west, south, and east. No, I'm sorry, west and south of Atlanta, just outside the perimeter. It's got 6 counties going from Henry up to Cobb. And I ran in that race twice. Um, and so I was politically involved there. But I still had to get those signatures, and 27,000 signatures is literally impossible. So when we lost in the federal court, I decided that I'm one of the only qualified people in the Libertarian Party to run for Attorney General, because you have to be a lawyer, and I'm a lawyer, and so I decided to switch horses and run as Attorney General, because we don't have to get signatures. I mean, we have ballot access. The Libertarian Party has ballot access on statewide races. So all we have to do in statewide races is to pay our money, just like everybody else, and we're on the ballot. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to be on the ballot for real this time. But I really like the office of Attorney General, because I can do so much in that office. As a congressperson, they do, honestly, they do nothing. I mean, they vote party line. They don't read the bills. They just shovel it all down our throats. And I wouldn't be able to do anything up there. But as Attorney General, by gosh, I can do a lot. And so there are many issues which I doubt we'll have time to talk about them all, but I'm going to mention just a couple of them. The first issue that I want to deal with as Attorney General is something called no-knock warrants. And what this means is that if the police officer gets the permission of a judge, he can just kick down the door and go into the house. This turns out badly many, many times. Some of your viewers, listeners might remember the case of Boo Boo Phone Savannah, and I apologize if I got the name wrong. But this was a Habersham County case in 2014 where a police unit decided that they had probable cause to invade a home. And so they kicked down the door, they tossed in a grenade. The grenade landed in a baby crib. The baby's face was severely burned. And of course, the police officer came kicking in there and didn't arrest anybody because they didn't find any drugs. And it's just a horrible situation. I have seen in the press that after years of litigation, I think they finally got a $3+ million settlement. That is poor old Boo Boo, whose face had been severely damaged by this invasion. One of the officers was prosecuted in federal court for, I don't know exactly what, but there was some allegation that something was wrong with the warrants or something. But anyway, he was found not guilty. But I am totally opposed to no-knock warrants. And if I'm Attorney General, I'm going to send a letter to every judge on my first day and tell them this Attorney General's office does not approve of no-knock warrants. And while I'm not your boss, I'm not the boss of you, I'm not going to be happy if I learn that you have done a no-knock warrant.
Stay there with that thought too. What kind of power would you have when judges rule in cases like that as Attorney General? And then after that, I do want to ask you about qualified immunity.
Right. I have no power there. I mean, all I can do is provide incentives. So I can tell the judges that one major office in the state of Georgia, whose job it is to defend you, is advising you as your good counsel, do not do this, because it is not acceptable to me, and I'm not going to look favorably on it. Now, I can't stop them from doing it. Absolutely not. You're 100% right in suggesting that I don't have the power to stop them, but you can change incentives, believe me. If I were to say publicly, as Attorney General, I'm totally opposed to this stuff. And then if these judges, if these prosecutors, and if these police officers knew that if they blew up another baby boo-boo and burned his face badly, terribly, that their names would be front and center in the paper, and that they would be shamed for what they had done against their lawyer's advice, believe me, we'll not have a no-knock warrant while I'm the Attorney General.
All right. All right. Qualified immunity.
I'm totally opposed to qualified immunity. I think if you commit a wrongdoing, that we ought to do away with that. And your next question will be, well, what power do I have to avoid qualified immunity? None. But I can say, look, judges and lawyers and legislators, let's do away with this qualified immunity. We need to have proper incentives. That's what's involved here. The incentive to do the right thing. If you're going to be sued, if you make an error and you're not protected by government shield of sovereign immunity, your behavior is going to change, and I'm going to be a catalyst in that. And one of the things that I think is going to happen too is that when my message gets out there, people are going to hear this. They're going to hear this, and while I'm fully confident that I have a great chance of winning, I think we can change the incentives even in the campaign, because the Attorney General is going to have to answer for this stuff. I mean, he's going to have to answer me when I talk to him about this. And he's going to say, yeah, I'm totally in favor of those guys getting off scot-free when they misbehave. I don't think he's going to say that. I don't think he's going to say that. So me merely saying this now on the campaign trail is going to change the perceptions of the people of Georgia. And by gosh, the judges and the police officers and the prosecutors, they're going to hear this and they're going to be afraid. And they're going to be more careful because they're afraid of being sued. And that's the way it should be.
Wow. So what a way to wield the power of the third party. They always say third parties don't have a chance, but what a way to wield that power. So I see what you're doing, and that's good campaigning.
Right. It's along these same lines as the concept of civil asset forfeiture. And what you may know what this is, but the police officer can find $10,000 in some guy's car who is driving down the street and his windows were too tinted, right? And they can just take the money. They can just take the money and say, oh, this must be connected with some kind of drug operation. And they can just swipe the money. I'm totally opposed to that. I don't think you should be able to take the money under any circumstances, but certainly not when there's no prosecution. He's not even arrested. And they just take the money and make him file a lawsuit trying to get it back. I'm just totally opposed to that. And if anybody were to do a Google search on civil asset forfeiture, you can find hundreds of cases where innocent victims have been deprived of serious money because the cops didn't like the fact that some guy was carrying around $10,000, or in one case that I saw, $80,000 in their luggage, right? The $80,000 case, I can't remember exactly where it was, but it may have been in Pennsylvania, where a daughter had gone to visit her ailing father, and he had his old guy, and he had kept his money in a box under, a tin can under his house or something, and it was $80,000. And so he said, "Would you put this in the bank for me?" And she lived in another state. So she looked on the internet and saw, well, it's not illegal to carry $80,000. So she did. She went to the airport. And they stole the money from her. They took the money from her. They called her dad, who was, mentally just not functioning 100%. And they said, we can't verify your story with your ailing dad. And so she lost his $80,000. And that's just one story of hundreds. I mean, it's just one of the most abused things in the world. Of course,
So
those guys get to keep the money for their department, although I think that's changing. They're saying it now has to go to, I think there was a recent case, maybe within the last month, where the Supreme Court says, no, the department can't keep it. They have to send it to the general fund.
So what happens to, that was going to be my next question. What happens to these monies when they're seized? Like, what happens to it?
Well, I think the case, if I'm recalling correctly, the case was about where the department, whatever had done the seizing, had kept the money so that they could buy whatever they wanted to buy for their apartment. But apparently that's not legal anymore, and they have to send it to the general fund. That's a little bit of help because it reduces the incentive to behave like that. But it doesn't help the person whose money is stolen just because the police department didn't get it, but the state of Georgia general fund got it. So
That's terrible. Yeah,
it's
so I have a couple more issues I want to throw at you. What about mandatory minimums? What's your thought?
totally opposed. I mean, one of the things because I was a criminal defense lawyer, I dealt with the mandatory minimums and also the sentencing guidelines. While the time I was doing criminal law in the federal court, the sentencing guidelines lost some of their power. The judges used to have to, have the probation department compute the sentence, and then they had to impose within a range. And I think that's changed now. The judges have authority to jump outside the sentencing range. But mandatory minimums are very closely related to sentencing guidelines, both of which I am opposed to. I much prefer, while it's somewhat arbitrary, I much prefer that a human being judge, who can see the people and can make a judgment about what's appropriate in that case, that he make a personal, informed judgment based upon his experience as to what the proper sentence should be. So I'm totally opposed to mandatory minimums.
And one more. What about the death penalty? What's your stance on that?
I handled 2 death penalty cases while I was a lawyer, and both of my clients survived. That is, they got a life sentence. I'm opposed to the death penalty, and I'm opposed to it for this reason. The state is incompetent to impose it. Now, I'm not saying that there are not really bad dudes out there who deserve to be executed for what they did. I'm not saying there are not people like that, and I'm not saying in a moral sense that somehow a really, really bad dude who commits a terrible, heinous crime shouldn't be executed. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. What I'm saying is the state is incompetent to impose it. And they do it arbitrarily. They do it badly. It depends largely upon who the lawyer was. And so, no, I'm opposed to the death penalty on practical grounds that the state can't reasonably impose it. And therefore, I would totally do it with the death penalty.
Okay, couple more. You're like going down my lane here. So, private prisons and cash bail. What's your thoughts on both of those?
Okay, I'm not really acquainted with private prisons and as an issue and cash bail, but I will say I'm opposed to private prisons. It's a state. I don't want to have anybody making money off of prisons. I think if libertarians came to power, there'd be we have the largest prison population in the world, right, in America, apparently on a per capita basis, and under libertarian philosophy, that would be reduced by 90%. There'd be like 10% as many, there'll only be 10% of the same number of people now in prison. So I'm opposed to private prisons. I think it ought to be a government function to incarcerate people. The cash bail thing is, a lot of people are interested in that, and I'm not really sure when people say, what about cash bail? I think some people shouldn't be let out of jail. I don't know if it's true or not, but I saw a story that there was some kind of serial killing out in, I don't know, in the West somewhere. And it was alleged in the story that I read that the serial killer who had been captured on the scene and 16 people had been shot was released on somebody posted cash and got him out. I'm just totally opposed to that. When people talk about cash bail, and the Libertarian Party is interested in this. I mean, I'm probably not on the same page with many libertarians when it comes to cash bail. But what they're thinking about, I think, and I'm not 100% sure of this, is that when someone's charged with, doing drugs or something like that they ought to be released until their trial comes on, own recognizance bond or something like that. My statement would be, I'm opposed to the war on drugs. I wouldn't arrest him in the first place or charge him with anything. So the question is somewhat nuanced. I'm concerned that a alleged serial killer who's been caught can get out on bail. I wouldn't let that guy out on bail, cash bail, any kind of bail. But on the other hand, you've got a whole bunch of crimes, maybe 90% of all crimes that are, just you violated some law that the legislature made up in order to serve some constituency that's not the good interest of the people. And then war on drugs is a perfect example of that. In my opinion, the only person interested in prosecuting the war on drugs is the pharmaceutical companies. Because if, for example, marijuana were legalized, they would be out of business because everybody would be self-medicating with legal substances, which they don't have a prescription for. This sort of leads into another issue that is of great interest to me, and that is, the cost of healthcare and the cost of drugs, for example. I don't know if you remember the story, but there's something called, I think it's called an EpiPen, and it's something, so if you eat peanuts, I think,
Yes.
for example, and you have a reaction to peanuts and you go into shock, then you get an EpiPen, you shoot in your leg and you get an injection of probably Valium, I'm not 100% sure. But I mean, this thing costs like $600 for a package of two. Now this is absurd. I mean, Valium is not over the counter, but it's the type of drug that is no longer patented, right? It probably costs less than the quantity of Valium involved in an EpiPen is probably less than $5. The EpiPen itself is just plastic and a little bit of metal, and that someone would be charged $600 for an EpiPen is outrageous. It should cost the price of a McDonald's Happy Meal. And the only reason it doesn't cost the price of a McDonald's Happy Meal is because the government protects big pharmacy profits. And so I am just unbelievably concerned about the influence that pharmaceutical companies and the medical care providers have over legislation, and the whole point of which is to keep prices up so that their profits keep high.
So how does that work? How does that with the attorney general? Like, what kind of jurisdiction do you have over that?
Probably none. Probably none. I mean, there's probably nothing I could do about that. Other than to advocate with the legislature saying things about that kind of thing. I've been advocating various positions as a libertarian across the board, and I admit, and you're right to point it out, that my jurisdiction and my power is very limited. The good thing about being the top prosecutor, I'd be the top prosecutor in the state of Georgia, is that I can pick my battles. I don't have to prosecute, for example, people that do lactation services without a license in Fulton County. I don't know if you've heard this case. This is a very recent case too. A Fulton County Superior Court judge declared that the lactation licensing requirement, which I think is probably a state law, is unconstitutional. I don't know, I didn't read the opinion. I do have it here sitting on my desk, but he decided that there shouldn't be a bunch of licenses. That for lactation specialists. So what's going on there? The only reason you would license a lactation specialist is because you want to protect a certain constituency that the legislator is interested in protecting. In other words, people that are already licensed. They want to suppress competition among lactation specialists so that they can maintain the pricing. This happens all across industry generally, but specifically in the medical field. And this reminds me of another big issue, and this is a Georgia law. There's something called certificate of need laws. Have you ever heard of that phrase? Certificate of need laws. What that is if you wanted to build a new hospital, and there's been stories about this within the last month too in the paper. If you want to create a new hospital, brand new, wonderful, great facilities and all this kind of stuff, you can't do that in Georgia unless you file with the state of Georgia a permission, which is called you have to get a certificate of need in order to build a new hospital. And they're going to say, more times than not, say, no, we don't need a new hospital in wherever, Atlanta or Cobb County or wherever, because there's so many other hospitals there, and you're going to interfere with competition. I mean, the certificate of need law has nothing to do with anything except protecting business, big business, from competition. And
let me ask you, with on the heels of that, the lactation license and the certificate of, would you call it a certificate of need license? What is that?
Right. Yeah.
So are you, and this is the job of the Secretary of State, they handle licensure. So how would that work with you being Attorney General? What kind of,
Well, for example, on the lactation stuff, I can say, look, our office is not going to prosecute people for violating licensing laws. That's just not going to be what we do. We're going to be interested in child trafficking, say, right? Or we're going to be interested in judges who take money and bribes. We're going to be interested in legislators who take money and bribes. We're going to be interested in, public corruption. We're going to be interested in organized crime and its influence on public corruption. I mean, this is a big office. I mean, they got 400 lawyers. We have a high level of functioning, and prosecuting some poor woman or man who wants to give somebody advice on breastfeeding will have no priority in my office. And there's going to be no. I mean, I won't enforce it.
So to kind of like really give people a ground view of what the Attorney General office does, you really just have a lot of influence on how cases are actually handled across the state. Is that kind of like, if we had to like give it like some very plain language? I have a master's degree in law. I'm an Emory grad, so I can talk to you on this level, but for the sake of the audience and people that are trying to follow the actual duties of the Attorney General's office, bring it down to a level where people can really understand what your role is.
Right. We are the lawyer for state offices and state officials. So if somebody gets sued, for example, I sued the Secretary of State myself, the Attorney General represents that person. So it's very much like a standard lawyer job. You are representing clients, and those clients happen to be public officials and state agencies. They also have a big office that does prosecutions of welfare fraud. I mean, I think welfare fraud is probably a crime that ought to be prosecuted, but I'm not sure it would be of great interest to me. I can't make decisions from afar, but I'm just giving you an idea of what they do. That they do have a welfare fraud office. They do election frauds, but they are the lawyer for the state of Georgia, for its officials, and for the agencies. And so what power I would have would be to say, look, I don't like you prosecuting lactation specialists. I'm not going to participate in that. That's not going to be a priority in my office. So if you want to let the Fulton County District Attorney prosecute a lactation specialist, go for it. But I'm not going to participate. My office will not be participating in that. We're going to be concerned about really serious crimes where people are actually hurt, where children or young adults are kidnapped and taken away. We're going to do that. We're going to do much higher level of stuff. We're not going to be tinkering with the licensing of lactation specialists or hair braiders, for gosh sakes.
So tell us how to find you. Tell us where you are on social media, and how are you doing out here on the campaign trail? How is it going?
Fine. I mean, this is a little bit different than running for Georgia 13 for Congress. Much more interesting because I can really get passionate about these issues I hope you detect. You have my website posted there, cowenforgeorgia.com. I am on Twitter. I do a lot of tweeting. I have a very active account there, and so I'm at ML Cowen, COWN on Twitter. Probably many of the people that are watching this video won't be on Twitter, and in fact, I recommend against it. Yeah. So
this will be brought. This is being broadcast on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
Okay.
We will see. They will see you on Twitter.
ML Cowen on Twitter. I do have a Facebook page, Martin Cowen, but it has a bunch of little numbers after it, 964 or something. But if you just search Martin Cowen, it'll pop up. I'm there. I don't do much. I do not do much political posting yet on the Facebook. I did when I was running for Congress. I had a whole page dedicated to my congressional run. I haven't yet created the Facebook page for the Attorney General one. I'm sure I'll do that. I just haven't gotten around to it. As I said, I'm very busy on Twitter. Talk too much probably on Twitter.
Oh, no problem. So we're glad to have you today. You hold tight, Mr. Cowen, but I just want to say thank you again for joining us on this broadcast, Tamara, for Georgia.
Thank you, Martin Cowen, for Attorney General. Thanks you.
All right, Martin Cowen, y'all. He is running for Attorney General here in the great state of Georgia. Again, if we don't give our candidates and lend our platforms to each other unfortunately, the parties, particularly the Democratic Party, is not going to do it. You know, they have their picks. They know who they want in office. So if you're not their pick, their favorite, then that your campaign just doesn't exist in their world. I actually went to over in little west of West Georgia and went to a Democratic Party event out that way about 2 weeks ago, and got over there and realized that that particular party had actually printed material that had my opponent's face and name all over it. And the party printed the material. There was supposed to have been a Democratic meeting down in Savannah this past week where they were supposed to vote on changing these bylaws so that the party, county parties and the party itself would not favor, quote unquote, one candidate over the other when there is a candidate, when there's candidates that are primarying each other. I haven't heard a peep from that. What I have heard is that the vote didn't happen. So that is, again, just disappointing at the behavior of the Democratic Party. You know, it is disappointing, and they want us to support them. I pray we get on the other side of this, because the Democratic Party, y'all, will never, in Georgia, will never be the same. I promise. So I want to share one more. I actually, you know, those of you that know me and know you've heard me talk about, you know, homelessness here in the state of Georgia. I told you that my father is a homeless man. And we've tried my father has had a drug problem all of my life. And our family has tried repeatedly to get him help, but that's, you know, being on the streets is where he wants to be. And there's a whole culture around that, and we have to be very sensitive to it. And over the years, as you know, this is my father, I have become very sensitive to it. So I navigate this space very, very, very carefully and very intentionally, and with a whole lot of love and a whole lot of respect. You know, we have people that are out there, and we have to treat them decently and humanely, and we have to be intentional about their care and supporting them and helping them to possibly come out of that situation. But I wanted to share a video. Let me see if I can get it on the screen, y'all, before we head out. I have another meeting at the top of the hour, but let me see if I could share this. Hold on. Y'all, this is my dad. I'm going to share my screen, make it a full screen. Let me share my screen and let me share my story. You know, this is why homelessness, you know, with Senator Raphael Warnock having homeless people live across the street from his church. That's why it hits me the way it does. This is my life. This is my life. All of my life. So let me share my screen and share my father and his story in Savannah. Let me share. This is my daddy, y'all. My daddy. I love him tremendously. So let me play the video. Frederick, you're an advocate for the homeless and the homeless community here in Savannah. Introduce yourself. Introduce yourself, Frederick.
Good afternoon. My name is Frederick Lester, CEO of Excel Services of Savannah. And come out on the side and do what I have to do out here for the homeless community and, you know, people in general, as I always do. Help out where I can, when I can.
But you do a lot, right? You go into, you actually feed them, like
yes.
you
feed, clothe,
offer
work boot program, mentorship, business consultation, anything that I can do to help them get back on their feet.
Y'all.
But I come out just about every day and, you know, make my rounds just like a doctor does and make sure everybody's all right, see if anybody need anything.
Yeah.
Blessed to be doing it.
Yes. Amen, y'all. And this is my father. I love this man. I love you, Daddy.
Love you too.
I love you, Daddy. That's my daddy. That's my daddy, y'all.
And his friends. His friends. Oh, they running. And you the mayor. He said he the mayor. He the mayor. Of the tree.
Police don't bother me.
They don't bother you. They know better.
They don't be out here cutting food. Just because you're in a bad situation doesn't mean you have to be doing bad things. And I come by and I never have an issue with law enforcement out here or see them having an issue. So just make sure that their needs are being met. We meet them at the point of their deficiency to help them continue to have some level of a quality of life.
Yes.
Just because you're down doesn't mean that you're out.
Well, I can tell you as a child of a man who's here, I just want to say thank you. How old am I? I'm 49.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am. He old. My daddy old. He act like he a young cat. He getting on up there. Frederick, I appreciate you for keeping your eye out, your heart, your wallet. Like you are out here with it. So I just want to say thank you.
And again, on Sunday, I'm going to bring my Clippers out Sunday to Forsyth Park. So a church is going to be serving the meal Sunday. I won't be serving food, but if someone comes out, has some needs within reason, we'll take care of their needs. But I'm going to give some free haircuts. I'll have a straight razor, so I'll give them a good line. And, just help them take care of the hygiene and everything. A man that looks good, feel good.
Amen.
So we'll be doing some fresh cuts and, whatever else we need to do to help these guys out. And women in that case also.
Yeah. Thank you, Frederick, for all you do.
You're most definitely welcome. Y'all vote for Tamara Johnson
Woo,
Shealey.
woo,
I'm supporting her candidacy.
Yes. Yes.
And it is mandatory that you vote for her.
Amen. Thank you.
All right. So this has been a tremendous journey to the United States Senate. Y'all, we're 3 weeks away. 3 weeks away from what could totally change this nation. Georgia, we are 3 weeks away from a campaign that will totally change this nation. You see, I got on my reparations t-shirt this morning. You see it. I have a couple more events that I'm gonna be a part of today. I burned the candle at all ends, and I've been doing it for over a year. This is not my first run. For those of you that don't know, this is not my second. This is not my third. This is not my fourth. This is my fifth consecutive run for office. And I've run for the Georgia State Senate 3 times. And that third race was a win. There's a whole story behind it. This is my second race to the United States Senate, y'all. We have a base. People that know about this message of reparations, people that support us in this journey. We have a base, and I'm excited. I'm encouraged. And I know that the right people will hear us, and we're going to be on because we really are on the right side of history. That's the exciting part of this. Like, we really are on the right side of history. Let me make sure y'all get all this reparations shirt. Yes, we are on the right side of history. Reparations for those of us who are descendants of chattel slavery will change the landscape in this country. We will change. This will change America. And when we talk about competing globally, OMG. I get excited because I know that reparations will take America to the next level. It will take America. Reparations will make America great. And I'm going to stand on that. Let me say it one more time. Reparations will make America great. And there's a whole argument to be made. There's we can do this, America. We can get this right. And Georgia, you're going to be the ones to decide. Georgia, you're going to be the ones to decide. I'm glad I'm not the only candidate out here. We have Marcel Dixon, y'all. Shout out to Marcel Dixon over in South Carolina, running against Jim Clyburn. We have William Somerville out in California, another reparationist candidate running for Congress. Y'all, we can change this landscape in this country right here, right now, with these 3 elections, my election and those 2 elections. We can change this country and do it for the better. And again, reparations will make America great. So I am Tamara Johnson Shealey. I know we're almost at the top of the hour. I'm just going to ask in these last couple seconds here, please go to the website. It's Tamara for Georgia, Tamara, Tamara. You know how to spell my name, for FOR, Georgia spelled out.com. Go to the website, make a donation. We're at the tail end of this, and together, Georgia, together, those of you across the nation, together, we're going to make America what it needs to be for all of us, all of us, all of us. So I appreciate you joining me every week on this broadcast. Again, I got 2 more events ahead of me. Let me hop on and keep moving. But I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'll see you guys on next week.
When we come to Washington in this campaign, we're coming to get our check. Young prodigies. Grow. Free.
Reparations, Martin said we coming for our check. Reparations, say it loud, 1, 2, mic check. Cream, cash rules everything around me. Dream, my legacy, you can't stop me. Coming for our 40 acres, HR 40 and our paper.
Kicking the door, coming for our 40 acres and more. Our 6.4 trillion. Miss that no, we fought the Civil War.
We came from the poor.
Start from the bottom, we still on the floor. We pray to the Lord.
Amen.
Picking a cotton, our fingers are sore.
Straight out the underground, escaping from slavery. The only cemeteries that we had were the trees. Watching our bodies while they blew in the breeze. Thinking to the north side to get free.
That way came from slavery. Where's on the mirror once you sit on me? Put her head on the door, put the werewolf scheme. Stick to the north side to get free.
Reparations, Martin said we coming for our check. Reparations, say it loud, 1, 2, mic check. Cream, cash rules everything around me. Dream, my legacy, you can't stop me. Coming for our 40 acres, HR 40 and our
Look,
paper.
we taking them back. Putting Pettis Bridge on the map. Police came with the strap. That Sunday was bloody, no cap.
Stop capping.
Speaking of cap, Kaepernick taking knees at the flag. Where my justice at? We built this nation, better give me them racks. All fat, just imagine a little bit of gasoline. 4 girls got bombed back in 63.
400 years, yeah, we still ain't free. Our rise, we rise, taking it.
Kaepernick.
Reparations, Martin said we coming for our check. Reparations, say it loud, 1, 2, mic check. Cream, cash rules everything around me. Dream, my legacy, you can't stop me.
Coming for our 40 acres, HR 40 and our paper.
We stuck in the trap, with no shoes trying to pull up bootstraps. Increasing the gap, wealth got bigger so we had to adapt. Discriminated cause we black, I know it worth more than I know it's a fact. They tryna feel scraps, strike me on board so we can't come back.
30 years ago on April 19, Yusef and Triremi Chemical Reed.
If it happened to them, think it happened to me. It's criminals already 5 to a free.
Prodigy.
Reparations, Martin